what I want to do is start off by commending everyone here and the Occupy movement. It's just tremendous. I started out as a volunteer for Friends of the Earth in 1970. And in the decade of the 70s, we actually had a situation where facts mattered. And you could really deal with Congress. You'd present information. And we were smart enough then to present a variety of arguments when we won a major victory against the subsidy of the supersonic transport. We were there because we didn't want the Earth's ozone layer to be destroyed by a commercial fleet, but the winning arguments tended to be budget priorities and economics. And we got economists from Milton Friedman on the right to John Kenneth Galbraith on the left saying it was a dumb idea. These were the days when facts really did matter. Now I would say Occupy is right on target because unless you are confronting, protesting, demonstrating, we are not getting through. And we're not getting through for a lot of reasons. What I want to go into, and I was asked to speak about the economics of natural resources, is the fact that we are running our whole economy on cheater economics, futureless economics, and casino economics. And this will be woven into what I'm going to tell you as we look at what's happening to the planet, because I want to look at what's happening in the energy sector, what's happening to forests, what's happening to oceans, what we're doing to the mountains, the volume of pollution. All of these are connected to how we are actually running the global economy, and you in the Occupy movement are getting right at the heart of it, and you're getting right at the action central. We've seen the G8, and I've worked protesting the G8 when it was back at the G7 in the 1980s, and so I'll come back to that theme, but you're going where the action's happening and you're confronting the decision makers. That is what needs to be done. We certainly can do better than having this catastrophic set of economics running the planet. And I would submit to you that we need a major economic paradigm shift. We need an economics for the earth, an economics for the earth and all of its people and all of the living creatures. We are on a finite planet. We cannot go on with this infinite expansion and exploitation, treating the earth as if it were a business and a liquidation sale. But that's exactly how these economics deal with it. They don't care about the future. They cheat and externalize the pollution costs and the health impacts on the public, and they run the place as if you can make money just by not providing any goods or services, by just gambling. And you've even had firms like Goldman Sachs having one branch telling people, invest here, this is a great deal, and the other part of it saying, we're going to bet on that deal to fail. That's just a wonderful high-minded ethics on the part of someone whose head of it became the head of the U.S. Treasury Department. But this is why we have to really start to shift big. Now, obviously, in 10 minutes, I can't get at all of the things that are wrong, but I want to just outline a couple of ideas for you. And basically, the theme is you can change the economics here and push for and adopt a steady state economy as your macroeconomic goal. Now, the website up there, steadystate.org, has all the details, and you may think, oh my God, what is this? Because you mentioned questioning on economic growth. Well, we're talking, though, about an economy that can have prosperity without what's traditionally talked about as growth, because right now they're exalting futureless growth. Well, futureless growth, because you discount the future's worth practically nothing, you're evaluating everybody on their quarterly returns. What do you think? Does this jibe with any of the values? As a parent, the things that are most important to me are the life that my children, and if they have any grandchildren, what kind of life, what kind of world will they live in? The future is the most important thing, I think, in most parents' lives. It's worth nothing with the kinds of economics here. So futureless growth, the kind of growth, for example, that the G8 will be promoting, because usually what they do is to give everything they want to do, say, okay, you, the World Bank, do this. solve this problem, and here, we'll pledge some money. They never actually ante it up. But you're going to the World Bank to actually solve a problem? Wow, I can go into that one, but you don't want to go that route, because what the World Bank's recipe, and it's seconded by the International Monetary Fund, is to a country, okay, you've got to decrease your imports and increase your exports, get your favorable balance of trade going, and you've got to privatize everything. So if you're in a developing country, what are you going to do? Well, what assets can you get right away? Well, you can chop down all your forests, okay, and your exports would go way up. Your growth, GDP as it's measured there, would skyrocket, but there's no future left. The eroded forest then will wash the water and decimate the fisheries in the rivers and streams. There's nothing left in terms of land fertility for your children. Is this the kind of growth that we want? No. That is idiocy. I mean, this is sheer, in the words of economist Kenneth Boulding, this is basically the frontier economics that characterize the United States. And we've run it because we could always move west. In the state of Michigan, what did they do to the forests? Well, Michigan is a forested state, and they started chopping down everything. Almost the entire trees were leveled, and then they started to have wildfires. The passenger pigeon, the most numerous bird in North America, probably 7 billion of them, became extinct 100 years ago. And that was where they nested. So what did they do? Well, tough luck Michigan, they didn't have a sustainable timber industry there. They just marched west. They kept marching until they hit the Pacific coast. It got so bad out there where they're logging that President Franklin Roosevelt saw one devastated place and said, I hope the bastard that logged this is roasting in hell. I mean, that is what is happening worldwide. We at Friends of the Earth, where I worked for decades, have member groups in 75 countries. They see this kind of tragedy, this kind of exploitation happening all over. Why is it that we can blow the mountains of West Virginia to smithereens, these biologically diverse forested hills, utterly wreck the local populations because you totally obliterate the hydrologic cycle when you do that? Massive floods, and you get droughts. You can't grow anything on this kind of moonscape. You don't have to visit Mars to see a Martian landscape. Just go out there southwest of Charleston and you can find it. I've flown over it. It is appalling. And our environmental movement has been impotent. We've fought it. We've tried to stop it. We've not succeeded. We need the Occupy movement. You are the future. You can make a change in how we deal with natural resources. You can bring about a paradigm shift. Now let me just give you a couple of ideas about some levers, because I don't think that there is any kind of magic bullet or any formula that anybody's got to get an economic paradigm shift, but there are certain things that we can do that may actually move us in the right direction. And one of the things is to get at cheater economics. Right now, the polluters almost follow a magical formula. The more pollution you emit, the more handouts you get from local, state, and federal governments. For example, these tragic animal factory slum operations, they might house 10,000 pigs in one barn. They can't even stand up or move around. But yet, Time magazine documented how these slum operations got handouts from every level of government. Unbelievable. Whereas what's happening to our local producers, the organic farmers, the slow food movement, these people are working, they don't benefit from those big government agricultural subsidy programs. They're marginalized. Here pollution gets rewarded. That is cheater economics. And so you cut out the subsidies. We did a press conference last week with Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont and Congressman Ellison of Minneapolis, Minnesota. They have introduced a bill to get rid of every subsidy that is in the books on fossil fuels, $110 billion over the next decade, for example. We don't think we've found them all, but those are pending. What can you do? What can you do with the darn casino economy? The question came up earlier, how much revenue is being lost. And the figure from the Global Financial Integrity Project is that these tax havens and tax dodges in developing countries are pulling $1 trillion out of developing countries, which dwarfs the $100 billion that all nations are pumping in foreign aid. But in our own country, the U.S. Treasury is losing from these tax havens an estimated $100 billion, which is about the exact amount that the Republicans were seeking to cut to deal with the $1.2 trillion they forced in terms of an agreement. They actually could have gotten this just by getting rid of all of these havens. So getting at that, you get at a number of things. You see the kind of damage also being done wherever fossil fuels go globally. And one good example is Nigeria, where Shell began drilling in 1957. They've had over 5,000 oil spills, incredible human rights abuses. And so the people have lost their land. They've had their fisheries polluted. These spills don't get cleaned up. They persist. They didn't start just then and stop. They continue right to the present time. Our Friends of the Earth Nigeria goes out to try to document them, but Shell has funded the government and paramilitary, so people who protest, they disappear. They even executed 9 who were leading an effort, a peaceful Gandhi-style demonstration. They executed them in the mid-90s. One of them was a Goldman Environmental Prize winner. Okay, let me just close by mentioning just a couple more things. One is you've got something going here in Maryland in that they were trying to get at the failure of the gross national product or gross domestic product to measure well-being. That's taken as the proxy for well-being, but all it does is measure how fast you're chopping down your forest and converting natural resources into waste. It's measuring the throughput. It does not take any account of the depletion of your natural capital. So this is a serious problem, but the state of Maryland has put into place a genuine progress indicator, and those of you who live here may want to monitor and force a good job to be done on that, because that would give an idea of whether you are getting well-being or whether you're actually indulging yourself in all these fraudulent styles of economics.